Hello, everyone, and welcome to Finding Family Facts, the Back to Basics edition. I'm Heather Register-Zabindon, the Programs and Website Coordinator for the CALS Roberts Library in Little Rock, Arkansas. Usually, we're joined by Rhonda Stewart for Finding Family Facts, but about twice a year, she takes a break and I fill in with an overview of our genealogy databases and services. If you're joining us from outside of the CALS service areas, so outside of Pulaski or Perry Counties, Arkansas, please check with your local library. It's very common for library systems to subscribe to these genealogy databases that I'm going to discuss today. So your library just might offer free access to Ancestry and other databases. The Central Arkansas Library System's Bobby L. Roberts Library for Arkansas History and Art is located at 401 President Clinton Avenue in downtown Little Rock. Our second floor research room is open Tuesday through Friday, 10 to 5, and Saturday, 12 to 4. All the information I'm going to go over today can be found at cals.org or robertslibrary.org. You can also call us at area code 501-320-5700 or email us at arcinfo@cals.org. Links to all of those addresses will be in the description of this YouTube video. In addition to the online databases CALS offers its patrons, the Roberts Library houses a non-circulating collection of genealogy reference materials. And of course, genealogy doesn't stop at the Arkansas border. People came to Arkansas from other areas, and people have left Arkansas to go run the world. So make plans to come to the Roberts Library on your next trip downtown if you live here, or if you are just visiting Little Rock. Make sure we're part of your itinerary. We have genealogy reference materials from all 50 states and many foreign countries, as well as microfilm of local and statewide newspapers not yet digitized, and a wonderful vertical file compiled of newspaper clippings from Arkansas papers as well as other sources. And our most important resource is our staff. We have genealogists, archivists, and historians on staff ready to help you with your genealogy questions and to get you past those inevitable family history roadblocks. Now, before I get started with the fun part of the program, here is the information about our genealogy handouts. They are located at robertslibrary.org/downloadable-genealogy-handouts. They are lists of all the databases and services we offer at or from the Roberts Library, from basic genealogy to personal archiving and DIY memory lab to property research. It's all listed here. So now on to the fun stuff. Really, you can start your genealogy journey here at CALS by going to our website at cals.org. So here you can see cals.org, and then you'll go to Learn, Research Tools, and you click on Research Tools, and then it's going to bring you to this page. And over here on the right-hand side is a widget that lists all the different categories. And so genealogy is there. So click on genealogy, and this will list all of the genealogy databases that the Central Arkansas Library System subscribes to, as well as a number of encyclopedias. So another place that you can go to get the same information that you saw on CALS is robertslibrary.org. So this is the Roberts Library website, and under this tab here, genealogy, you can go and find out about Finding Family Facts, which is our monthly genealogy class, and then genealogy resources. We have a tab on our developing page for Hispanic genealogy, as well as here's where those downloadable genealogy handouts live. But if you go to genealogy resources, it takes you to this page. And if you click on Explore Databases, the big thing about this page is that it'll tell you what you can use, what you have to use in a branch, in a CALS branch, and what you can use at home with your library card. With the microfilm, we do have quite a bit of microfilm. Some of it has been digitized and is in the genealogy databases, but some of it hasn't. So you might want to check this as well. This does have to be used here at Roberts Library, but it is a good resource to have. So that's how to get to all of the things. So I'm going to close out some of these tabs, and we're going to start here first with Family Search. So Family Search is a website database that you can use free of charge, whether you have a library card or not. You do have to sign up to use it, but all they want is your email address. And honestly, when they send out email blogs about different genealogy tools, I find them some of the most helpful and fascinating blog posts that I read. So it's worth it, hands down. So Family Search is a great place to start because you can see census records and other data before you launch into the bigger databases and really jump down the rabbit hole. This is a good place to start to get information. Kind of the second tier of genealogy databases, websites, is Heritage Quest. You can use this from home with your CALS library card. You do need a CALS library card to access it through our site, but please check with your local library. They may have access as well. So Heritage Quest, like I said, is just like that next step up. So you can look at census records, you can look at city directories, you can see the Indian census rolls, mortality schedules, agriculture and industrial schedules, as well as from some Freedmen's Bank records. So again, that second tier that you're able to explore with your library card. So Ancestry.com is really what people are familiar with as far as genealogy research is concerned. You see the commercials about clicking on the leaf and your family tree just unfolds before you. So the library, the Central Arkansas Library System, subscribes to Ancestry Library Edition for you to be able to use in our branches. There are two main differences that we found between the Ancestry Library Edition that you can use here and the Home Edition that you're going to pay for. Those two things are, you cannot create family trees yourself. You can look at other people's family trees, but you can't create your own, and you can't link documents to it, which is kind of cool. Also, you cannot participate in message groups. You can read the message groups and get information from them, but you can't participate in them. So those are the two big differences. This is the international version. I know that Ancestry has several levels of plans that you can subscribe to. This is the international edition, so it has all of those international records that you'll want to look at. Okay, so to get started, up until a year ago, April of 2022, we were telling people to find someone that they know is living in their family in the 1940 census. But 1950 has come out now. I'm still recommending people look for 1940. The 1950 census is partially indexed, mostly indexed, but there are some little problems that I'm finding where things are getting indexed incorrectly, and that can just make for frustration. So maybe still stick with 1940 for a minute. So you'll go here to search, and you'll go to census and voter lists, or you can just do a big general search. And so we are going to search for my paternal grandmother. And I always try to be as broad with my search as possible. That may seem a little counterintuitive, but it helps with finding some things you might not realize that you were looking for. So here she is in the 1940 census, and you can click on that link and then it will give you a transcript of the information on her line. So here it is, and it also tells you who is in her household, which I think is really, really important. Now, I was mentioning that, you know, sometimes both the computer indexing of these more recent censuses and the person indexing, the human indexing, can be a little wrong. So they transcribed her name instead of Maud as Mad, and they also list her brother Benny as being 3 years old. So we always recommend for people to click on the scanned image if it is available. And then you can see here in the green section, that's the household, and my grandmother's line is the yellow line there. And so we're gonna zoom in, and hopefully my mouse isn't gonna go all wacky on us. It likes to be a little wacky. So here is that household. If you look closely at her name, they transcribe it as Mad, but there is a little U right there that just got missed. And then Benny, her brother, is actually 30 in 1940. He's not 3, he's 30, but somehow it missed that 0. So that's why we always recommend for people to go and double check to see what might be missing. Also, a lot of enumerators had really bad handwriting. You can get a lot of interesting information off of the census. We like to push beyond names, dates, and places. So home value is important, whether it was a farm or not. Sometimes in the side margins, over here on the side, it will tell you the street name. So, oops, let's go in a little bit more and then just pull down. There we go. So here, it's 2nd Street. Up across the top, it'll tell you as you move through the page, sex, race, age, marital status, did they attend school, to what grade, where were they born. So lots of information can be had about your family members from this census information. So let's go back to Ancestry's homepage, and I want to show you just briefly some of the other records and documents that you can find here. So these are all public records, many of them scanned from the National Archives and Records Administration and other public repositories. So here you can see, you can look at public member trees. People can make their trees private, so that's why it says public member trees. Birth, marriage, and death records, military records, we'll get to that in a minute. Tax, criminal, land, and wills, we'll also get to that in a minute. You can get a lot of information about your family from these types of records. City directories, immigration and travel. This is one I discovered more recently, and I really like it because this is one where sometimes you can find a picture of your relative. So we're going to search for James Breckenridge. So up here on the top is U.S. passport applications, and this is actually, I think, an emergency passport application. I've looked at this already. I know it's not the one I'm looking for. It is the right person, it's just not the right version of the document. But here, under U.S. passport applications, so same name, I don't know what makes it different, except it's an actual scan of the book, as opposed to the previous one was some kind of scan of just the application. So if you click on the photo here, and it takes you to all the pages of that book, scan out a little bit, and let me double check. I think, nope, that's not him. So if you go to the back page, so that here, page 453 is the front of his application, and then on the back of his application for 354 is actually a photo of him. It's his passport photo. So sometimes you can find a photo that you didn't know existed of your relative, but make sure you're looking on the back side, because as you can see, I could have easily assumed that this was him, and it is in fact not. So that's just kind of an interesting little tidbit. So back to this Ancestry homepage, and so we looked for a minute at immigration and travel. You don't know if your relative has traveled somewhere. Don't assume that they haven't. Check that out. Schools, directories, and church histories can give you some important information. And then also be aware that Ancestry is always scanning new information. They're always adding new databases. They're adding to existing databases. So always come back and double check. It really should probably be the first thing. But the next thing I always talk to people about is the gravestone websites. And I think we use Find a Grave more than we do any of the other ones. This is the one I really like to highlight. So there are volunteers all over the country, and I'm assuming all over the world, who are visiting cemeteries and documenting the headstones, making sure that the information is in this database. And so you can get a lot of really great information from Find a Grave. And oftentimes I use it as my kind of go-to if I need to be reminded of something, like who was married to who kind of deal. So if we look for Catherine Carson Breckenridge, here she is, the very first one that pops up. And people have put photos of the person in the record, as well as the photo of their gravestone or records in stone. So you can see here it has her birth date, where she was born, her death date, where she died, where she's buried. You can leave, you can add photos, you can leave flowers. Gives a little bit of information about her, but also it links to her other family members' stones. And so this is where I end up going, who was Joseph married to, or who was William married to? Those kind of outlying relatives that I don't spend a lot of time dealing with. So, Find a Grave is a great place to go and explore, as well as add to. I encourage you to help out with that. Now, outside of the census, I think probably the second biggest question we get asked is about military records and military service. So Fold 3 is an Ancestry product that we subscribe to here at the library. I'm going to say that a lot. We subscribe to it here at the library, and you can use it from home using your CALS library card. And for the United States, Fold 3 has records from the Revolutionary War up to Vietnam, which is great, as well as, I think the most popular thing right now is probably the World War II draft cards. And just like with other records like passport records, you can get a lot of details about your ancestor that you might not have known. So John Harold Austin was my maternal grandfather, and here is his draft card for World War II. Everybody had to register for the draft. Even though he did not serve, he had to register for the draft. And so here is his draft card, name, where he lived, how old he was, his date of birth, who, the person who would know him, know where he was no matter what, and that was his mother, who he worked for. But it's the back side of the card that I found the most interesting, because he was an old man when I knew him. He was wrinkled and he was gray-headed, and he was still thin. He was still, I guess, about 5'11". But you can see here, gray eyes, blonde hair. And it, I would have called his complexion ruddy by the time I knew him. So again, little key information that you may not find anywhere else. We also get asked a lot about how to request military records for your ancestors. And I'll put this link in the description here on YouTube. But you have to go to the Veterans Service Records and you have to request them. There are there's a fact sheet down here at the bottom that gives you some good information. What if I'm not the veteran or the next of kin? Can you get those records? How much is it going to cost to get those records? What kind of response time? So this is important information if you are looking to pull your relatives' veterans records. Okay, newspapers. So newspapers provide so much information about your family, and not just famous or infamous family members, but just everyday people who were going to visit someone or going to have dinner with somebody. This was reported in small town or county newspapers. And so you can find a lot of information in the newspapers about your relatives. And in most cases, the scanned, digitized newspapers are scanned in such a way that they can search the text of the actual newspaper. So no more trying to go and read and see where your ancestor is listed. So newspapers.com is an ancestry product that we subscribe to. You have to use it inside of a branch. And I actually can't search it right now because I'm on the Wi-Fi network and not hardwired, so I can't even get into it. But if you come to one of our branches, you can browse, you can search through newspapers.com. It is just Arkansas papers, but you can search through quite a few. So another newspaper database that we subscribe to here at the library system, and it's fairly new to us, we just started subscribing during the pandemic, is Newspaper Archive. Again, Arkansas specific, but you can get a lot of great information about what your relatives were doing in Arkansas during that time. You can use this from home using your library card number if you're a CALS library card holder. So if we browse by location and we say United States, Arkansas is the only option, but it lists different cities. And usually, I'm not really sure why, but I go to Gentry. So you can see here Gentry, and there's the newspapers for Gentry. So we're going to look at the Journal Advance. Oh, I actually have to search for somebody. So let's search for the name William, just to give you an idea of what it does. Oh, it has to have a last name. Let's say Smith, because that's easy. So it has searched all of the newspapers all of the Journal Advance that it has scanned from Gentry, Arkansas, and found the William Smiths in here. And so you can see it highlights it, and then if you click on the newspaper itself and give it a second to load, it will also highlight the examples of William Smith as well as William and Smith separated throughout the paper. So if your relative was Miss William Smith here of Little Rock, they had this outing. And so you can actually go and crop like this. There's probably a better way to do it, but so you can go ahead and clip that, whoops, it moved it up. Clip that little tidbit and save it so that you can have it for future reference. So in addition to newspapers.com and newspaper archives, which are Arkansas specific, the Library of Congress has the Chronicling America Historic American Newspapers project going on. This is where they are trying to digitize as many newspapers as possible from around the country, and I believe around the world even, to make sure that we have digital copies of the newspapers. So if you go to chroniclingamerica.loc.gov, again, I'll put it in the description below, and you go to Arkansas, and we'll just let it search for the whole 1770 to 1963, and you get, as you can see here, 270,980 results. Again, these pages have been scanned, so if you were to enter a keyword here, so let's say we'll do William Smith again and execute it, it'll bring back records with William and Smith in the scan, and it highlights them in kind of a pinkish red. So here you see William F. Smith, plaintiff, R.B. Clear, complains of the defendants, and here's William F. Smith. So it's a little bit easier than it used to be. You're not looking through a bunch of indexes, you're actually searching for keywords. Okay, so for the last couple of websites that we're going to talk about, these are actually some of my favorites that I use on a regular basis. The first one is the Bureau of Land Management, which has the General Land Office records. And so if your people owned land in the United States, this is an important database. So if you go here to blm.gov and to the land records, and I'll put this link in the description on YouTube. And for some reason I'm getting this error today. I don't normally get it. So if you go to the Bureau of Land Management page and you click here, it should take you there. I'm going to actually let them know that it's an error, but I wonder if it's also my firewall. So Bureau of Land, if I could show it to you, you'd see that you could see plat maps and tract books, record books. It's really a great database. So the other database that I really love to kind of dive into is the Fire Insurance Map database. And the one that we subscribe to is called FIMO, Fire Insurance Maps Online. Fire Insurance, singular, Maps Online. And it's just the Arkansas section that we subscribe to. But this is, you'll be able to use it with your library card from home anytime, day or night. And so you can go here and you select Arkansas, which is the only option, and then it gives you all of the place names. There aren't going to be maps for all of these place names. This is a generic place name list. But for instance, let me try to pick one. I bet there's nothing for Harding. Oh my gosh, there is something for Harding. So maybe there are. Harrisburg, yes. Okay, so maybe there's more than when I first looked at it. But we're going to scroll down here. So play around, explore. We're going to scroll down to Little Rock, and here's the Little Rock maps. So you've got starting with 1886 all the way to 1963. And so we're actually going to go to this 1897 map. And the first, over there on the left, you've got those map sheets. The first one is always, or most likely, going to be the index or the key, both the key to what you're going to see on the buildings and structures, as well as a key to which sheet you need to go to. So you can see here is downtown Little Rock, and we're actually going to go to sheet number 1. I'm going to show you where the library is. So here, oops, I scrolled a little too much. Okay, so up here you can see the river, and then this is kind of sort of where the pavilion, the amphitheater is. This is the River Market Pavilion here. La Harpe's Furniture is about here, I guess. Flying Saucer is about here. This is the Roberts Library. I'm actually sitting kind of right here in this corner. And this is where the main library is today. So you can see you get a lot of information about what the area of town looked like, where your people lived. So this is a lot of fun. So if you need to look at Sanborn maps or fire insurance maps, Sanborn is the generic name. It was a company name, but it's now become kind of a generic, but there were lots of companies that did these. if you want to look at maps, at fire insurance maps for other states and towns in other states, then you'll want to go to the Library of Congress and look for the Sanborn Map Collection. And as you can see here, the first one is Amarillo, Texas. And if you click on it, you get the index as the first image, and then you get all the subsequent images, and you can find where your folks lived. And the very last database that I talk about is Google Books. And this is actually books.google.com. This is not Google Play Books, where you go and get the latest James Patterson audiobook or ebook. This is a database started, I think, with Cornell University and their rare books collection, but this gives you a lot of digitized conference guides for like medical conference or law conferences or medical school lists of graduates. Not quite yearbooks, but kind of close to a yearbook. So it's really kind of a neat thing. And so let's look for Orville Faubus, because I bet we'll find some cool stuff that way. So if you search for Orville Faubus, who was the infamous governor of Arkansas during the Central High Crisis, and for a long time was the longest serving governor, you've got several of his addresses. You've got information about a biography by Roy Reed. You've got some television addresses. So you can see you've got a lot of information. Obviously, Orville Faubus is very famous. He's going to have left a really long record. And finally, death records. How to order a death record for someone who has died in the state of Arkansas. And for that, you go to the Arkansas Department of Health, sometimes referred to as Vital Records, or the Vital Records Division of the Department of Health. I will put the web address to this website in the description on YouTube. But you'll go to death records, and there is a fee, and it also depends on how you're related to the person, whether you can order the record or not. And so there are other links down here to get some more information. I always tell people, call before you go. The health department office for Vital Records in Little Rock has a waiting room that is often very crowded because people are trying to get birth certificates for new babies. So call before you go, find out, are you eligible to get the death record on your ancestor, and those kind of things. So that's how you get a death record from Arkansas. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it was helpful. Please join us for Finding Family Facts. It's the second Monday of the month at 3:30 Central Time, 3:30 p.m. Central Time. And you will get to hear all of Rhonda's great wisdom about genealogy, and occasionally a couple of tidbits from me. So everybody have a great day. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you at a Finding Family Facts soon.